importance of knowing your history, the importance of knowing where you come from, the importance of knowing your people, your own heritage, your own legacy. It's because when you don't know that, you're missing a part of your soul. Hi, I'm Melody Wilson. I'm originally a Smith, and I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but raised mostly in a place called Teaneck, New Jersey. We commuted to a city or suburb close enough where my mother, she was a public school teacher in Harlem, and so we lived close enough to be able to commute all the time. All of my high school academic was in Teaneck, New Jersey. When I graduated very young, and I went to our state college, which is Rutgers, but I went to a small school, which is Douglas College, which is, at the time, it was predominantly an all-female college, not so much, but that was its reputation. And I went there for a couple of years before really not doing so well, not making that transition. And so I wound up coming back home. And I worked for a while. I figured that it was a dead end unless I did my schooling, but my parents at that time were no longer willing or able to fund my education, so I had to find an alternative means. Long story short, that's how I wound up in the military. It was my way out. Along with the promise of funds for college, I saw it as an opportunity. Wound up in the Marine Corps, which was one of the first openings. Although I can't say that I really liked being in the military. It was very good for me at the time. It really was a turnaround for me. I wound up separating about maybe a couple of months early so that I could go to school. I got accepted to Howard University, and so I started there. I've been here at Harrisonburg High School. This is my 4th year here at Harrisonburg High School. So the class that's graduating this year, it was my inaugural class when I came in. I personally feel that Black History Month is not just Black History Month, but because you can't relegate it really to a month. I feel that this whole idea of Black History Month is supposed to be a month that we highlight the contributions of Black people to our society as a whole. Black history in general. My opinion is in education, I see that it has not only taken a back burner, it just doesn't even have a place. And then sometimes the context in which it's taught, and I can't speak for the history or social studies department as a whole, but I know maybe not in this school, but in other schools, it is not taught properly or taught maybe with the best vested interest. It's almost like a duty, and then it is so overarching that I feel that it's not purposeful. The same things will be taught over and over again, which of course I understand that the highlights, they shouldn't be forgotten, but we as a people in our struggle are more than just Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so I feel that when it's taught in a school setting, it's just done with those basic things in mind, and then maybe talking about slavery and the history of slavery. But you don't really get into who Blacks are as a culture. Now granted, that could be a college course in itself, and that you don't have the time to go in depth, but I feel that if you're going to teach history, you need to teach the history of a people group, or at least gather the essence of who people are as a culture. So Black history, to me, I feel is important because I'm really concerned about young people of color. This is just a personal thing, and you have to know everybody's going to speak from their personal framework and from their own experience. I take issue even today when I hear young people using the N-word left and right. But the reason why I take issue with it is because I feel there's such a flippancy with it that they don't understand the history behind it. They don't understand the story. They don't understand the full connotation of what that meant not too long ago. Like we're talking about like 40 years ago, even more recently, how that could mean somebody's life, that could mean a black man's self-esteem. It's so much with it, and we just use things flippantly. Why? Because we don't understand the history. And so that's the point that I'm making. I think that young people, because they don't understand what's the story behind something, they don't have a way to value anything. For me, I just wanted to give just a small example of how important it is to understand where you come from, to understand your history, to understand that people's lives were a lot different than how life is today. And we're talking not just at a basic level or self-esteem level, we're talking about a survival level. We're talking about life and death level. And I don't think that a lot of young people really understand what it means to be black in America. I think some people do. Just let me put it this way. As a mother of two black men, I know what it's like to have that fear or that concern for my sons on a different level because of their blackness. Trayvon Martin, I think, was the start. I think it was the beginning of a wake-up call, but it was just maybe enough just to wake some people out of sleep. As sad as all of these instances are, it's almost that I feel that there has to be a rally cry. There has to be attention. You cannot deny. You cannot kill off people groups. You cannot shut an eye of what's happening on levels of basic rights and human life. I think the most disturbing part about this, because this isn't new, this isn't new. It's been happening. I heard somebody put it this way: it's like a 21st century version of the lynching of the black man. This, though it's not new, the most disturbing thing is that even then when you put it in the face of the public arena, it's still not enough to wake everybody up. It is like people have been desensitized to know that this is wrong on so many levels, and then not even on the level of just black and white, but on the level of humanity. And if you can't see that there is definitely a problem here in our nation, if you can't see that it's on the line delineated, it is on the line of color, then we're really in a sad position. I see these people really as young martyrs.
I am Dina Reed, and I am from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I attended Harrisonburg High School, graduated in 1984. I attended Radford University, and at that time my major was actually music. I was a voice major, which a lot of people don't know that. And I left Radford University in 1988, and I now am taking classes at Liberty University because I am changing my major to education. So I hopefully graduate from Liberty this year. What does Black History Month mean to me? My family, my history. I have a big family. My grandmother had 6 brothers and sisters. My grandmother's mother was half white, and she was the matriarch of the family, Julia Hughes Howard. They paved the way for all of us. They were the first homeowners. One of the first homeowners here in Harrisonburg. They owned 3 houses. So when I think about Black History Month, I think about my family. I think about my history, my legacy. And my grandmother is a big part of that. She lived to be 90. She just passed about a month ago. And something that really stuck with me with her, with who she was. She was a maid, basically, and she took care of white families. And when she passed, there was one of the kids that she raised. Her name was Jeannie Jackson, and she called me recently, and she was very humbled, and she was just crying on the phone about my grandmother and how my grandmother was a significant part of her life. That my grandmother was her maid, took care of the house, but actually raised her and her two brothers. And that immediately made me think of the movie The Help, because that was my grandmother. She raised all these white kids. And when she passed, they were as affected with her death as I was, as her granddaughter. And so that was amazing to me. Another thing about it is Jeannie's mother was only 5 years older than my grandmother. I always thought, wow, that's amazing. That Miss Jackson was only 5 years older than my grandmother, and my grandmother was her help, and she was raising her kids. So do I think that Black history should be taught at school or home? Yes. I was looking at a Super Bowl commercial, and it had the elder people in there that had hit 100. And the last one was an African-American man, and he said, don't forget where you came from. And that is so true. But you can't forget where you came from if you don't know the history. So I think Black history should be taught at school. I'm surprised. Now, I went to Harrisonburg High School 1984, and there was only 11 blacks in my class, in my senior class, 11 of us. We were either all related, 6 boys, 5 girls, and I was probably kin to 4 of the boys. And did we learn about Black history? We probably learned about 2 people, Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. And that's all I remember. To me, that's sad because I really didn't find out about who I was or what it meant to be Black until I came home and was talking to my grandparents. I think it's very important that it's taught because you're not going to understand who you are if you don't understand the history of the past. How do I feel about Black Lives Matter? I really realized what our Black males go through, and I didn't realize it until the Trayvon Martin case. That case really paralyzed me. I couldn't understand how this young man lost his life for no reason. He did nothing wrong. And I never thought that George Zimmerman would be acquitted. But after that happened, I realized we got a problem. And after Trayvon, it just snowballed into what we have now. And I don't have children, but I am very fearful for our young men because they are hunted. And it's almost like they're obsolete. It really hurts my heart as a woman, as a Black woman, that our males, our men, our boys are not safe. And I don't care how many ways we can spend it. It's fear of these Black boys, and that's all it is. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and we really need to talk about the layers behind it.
I once dreamt of picket white fences, an American dream, a family all kept together by the seams, a bloodline that won't spill or drip onto these streets, But no, I'm a black girl. The growing fear that the sons I will one day flourish will one day be taken down by guns. Call me crazy, but I know I'm not the only one. Hands in the air, not posing any threat, but we're still looked upon as the monsters by the stereotypes that the media has set. Answers, answers, I'm looking for answers. The disease of the nation is becoming far deadlier than the cancers. Black History Month. Well, I almost feel like it's been neglected over the years. Hello, well, I'm Tamara Brown from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I'm spellman-bound. When I was younger, I recall sitting in a classroom, and it would be like, February 1st, this is Jackie Robinson. The next day, like constantly learning about new people, of black history, black culture, and just things like that. And now it's almost like we've ran out of things to talk about. And I find that it's really sad that all of our black histories kind of like meshed together in this 1 month. It's almost, I think it's kind of mocked, honestly, because it's like saying that we don't do enough great things to talk about as the whole year, instead of we just put it in just 1 month and just kind of slam it all together. I feel that way about Black History Month because just like my high school experience overall, I went to an all-black basically high school, and we like really failed to talk about Black History Month, just like empowering ourselves throughout the month of February. It was just like the whole month was completely at an absence almost. Topic that people like haven't really been paying attention to, or they don't really find like it's really real or relevant right now, is racism. And racism for me is very real because in my family when I was younger, I remember this whole debacle that happened. So the adults, they were just like all like freaking out. They were just like, something about the sign, something about the sign. I'm just like, what happened? Like I'm like probably like 4 or 5 years old. I was like, what happened? And then me and some of my little cousins, like it's just like our land. We walk up to the sign and someone had sprayed KKK on it in red. And that made like racism very real to me. I was like, how can people hate you that much just because you're colored by your skin? That at that point, that's when everything became relevant to me. Black Lives Matter. I find it actually sad that we've came to this point where we have to advocate that black lives do matter. It's like I'm advocating the fact that my life actually matters because other people cannot see it. When I think about black people, just the culture, the color, just the whole movement, I guess you could say, since it is technically a movement because other people don't see it as anything more than a movement, I feel like it's strong. We're self-driven, we're powerful, and we've overcame so much. We just have to keep going. I've realized the fact that someone's inability to not see your potential doesn't really affect you, or it's not the absence of what lies inside of you. I'm still great, I have potential, I am here, and I matter. That's what Black Lives Matter to me. It's just a matter of getting it a point to everybody so that they can know that we matter too. Like we're here, we're apparent, like we're living. We're not dead, we're still here.